We'll see. All right, so my name is Lionel. I'm with Momento. I started with Momento full-time earlier this year, so it's pretty new for me. But I've been in the video industry forever, as you can tell with my white beard. Yeah, it's been probably over 20 years now since I've been doing video streaming. But Momento, it's a small company that was created 4 years ago by Khwaja Shams and Daniela Miao, who are ex-AWS engineers. A lot of the team is also coming from AWS or AWS Elemental. And what we do is, in a nutshell, we deploy instantly real-time infrastructure for millions of users. So some of our customers, you can see the logos up there. We do a lot for media and entertainment, especially with Fox and Tubi for the Super Bowl, but we also have other customers like Paramount, CBS Sports, DirecTV, Wise, and so on. So the keywords here are real-time and millions of users, because that's really where the challenge is. So I see we have some people coming from Amsterdam here. So let's do a little quiz on geography. You know what is this country? Because if I ask American people to locate Amsterdam on the map, half of them will not be able to know which country is Netherlands. But that's the United States. And we are in Oregon, which is one of the states in the Pacific Northwest part. And you see those 4 states. So we have Oregon, Washington. What are the 2 other states? Do you know? Montana and Idaho. And those 4 states, they have exactly 15.5 million inhabitants. So 15.5 million people live in those 4 states. I think there are 18 million people living in Netherlands. So it's very close to what Netherlands is. And so we're not talking about geography here. We're talking about the Super Bowl. But the Super Bowl was actually the most streamed Super Bowl in the history of sports in America. And at the peak time, the number of concurrent streams was exactly 15.5 million. So you can imagine that every single person living in those 4 states was watching the same event at the same time. That's the size of this kind of event. So it was a massive success for Fox and Tubi. And if you look at the evolution of the viewership over time, it's a big jump this year. Okay, I don't have the pointer, but you can see in 2025, 15.5 million was almost double what it was last year and more than double what it was with Fox, the same team, 2 years ago. And you can see that it's accelerating. So more and more people are obviously watching this kind of high-profile event like the Super Bowl over IP networks and on streaming applications. So for Tubi this year, it was free, so everybody could register, and they saw a big spike in the number of registrations for that event. But still, I think it was really amazing. If you compare to the largest events ever streamed, I'm guessing that many of you guys have watched the Netflix boxing game, Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. It was 65 million concurrent streams. So 4 times more than the Super Bowl, but it was on a global scale with a one-time event that with a lot more advertisement around it and publicity around it. But I don't know if you watched that boxing game, but the result was not that great. The amazing thing with what Fox and Tubi put in place this year is the results they had. So not only 15.5 million concurrent views, but 0.5 buffering rate, which is one of the key metrics they were looking at. So they wanted to make sure that for a live event like the Super Bowl, there is basically no buffering on the player side because it completely ruins the experience. The start time was less than 1 second. So those slides are coming from Fox. I think it's inferior and not superior sign, but anyways, You can see, and 28% of the viewers were watching the content in 4K. So it's by far the largest 4K live event streamed in the history of media. I really want to give a shout out to the Fox team because the infrastructure they put in place this year for the Super Bowl just broke all the records. And if you compare, so they gave all the numbers when Fox was in charge of streaming. If you compare to what was the state of the art 2 years ago and 5 years ago, it's accelerating, and some numbers are just mind-blowing. The CDN capacity at the highest this year was 135 terabit per second just for one event. So that's going to be my main theme. You have to really try to think about the numbers and how challenging it is to meet those requirements for a once-in-a-year event. So Fox did an incredible job. It's really a masterclass in operational experience. I was talking with someone from Hydraulics. So Hydraulics and Momento, we were in the war room during the Super Bowl, and we were watching all those metrics and events. 15.5 million concurrent streams, 28% watching 4K content, 0 downtime. It's absolutely amazing. Again, I've been doing video streaming for over 20 years. I don't think I've seen a lot of platforms that can compete with what Fox put in place for the Super Bowl. It was really, really amazing. Why did they put so much energy in that platform for just one event? Because the stakes were really, really high. The revenue number just for the ads were $800 million. $800 million. So it's not only for streaming. You know, you have cable and everything, but it's $800 million for a 4-hour event, right? So if you do the math, it's $55,000 a second. So it's a Ford Mustang every second of revenue for the Super Bowl. If I wrote that slide 2 years ago, I would have put a Tesla Model Y. It's 50, but you know, in 2025, it's not politically correct to talk about Tesla anymore. So it's a Ford Mustang every single second. So they couldn't afford to lose any second of the content during that event. And that's why they became absolutely obsessed with QoE and metrics. And it's really something that they put a lot of effort in. They wanted to really have a fully metrics-driven culture for that event. It's not about only having a lot of metrics, it's what matters. And they defined some metrics that were really important. Low latency. It was live content, and I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the streaming infrastructure. I'm talking about the QA infrastructure. But some analysis have been done by several companies or journalists, and they actually had a lower latency than most cable providers for streaming over 2B. High bitrate, again, 28% of the viewers got access to the 4K stream, and 0 buffer rate, which means there is no buffering when you start your stream and when you constantly watch the stream. Again, Netflix did an incredible job. 65 million concurrent views is the world record for the boxing game. But if you watch that event, the buffering rate was not 0.5% at all. 0 buffer rate. That's really something they wanted to, that was the goal, the gold standard for Fox and to be for the Super Bowl. And to achieve that goal, they wanted to make sure that they could have dashboards in real time to monitor everything that was happening and make sure that they could have a signal-to-noise ratio that was high enough so that they could do real-time decisions to eventually make some decisions, like if there was, I don't know, Android set-top boxes that were not good enough for 4K viewing, you couldn't tell the difference between 1080 and 4K viewing. They could cut off the 4K stream for those Android set-top boxes, for example. Just an example. So they wanted to have metrics that were available in real time to make decisions, detect failures, and be able to proactively correct and make sure that the infrastructure would be proactive and not reactive for the problems they would see in the field. And yeah, so there was a war room with maybe 60 people. So we were on Slack during that event. And the operational excellence of these people was, again, absolutely outstanding because they could really make a difference when things happened during the event. So they were actually using a lot of different dashboards to get those numbers. They used, they're still using 2 leaders in the market, and those companies have excellent products. They can provide very detailed dashboards, and everything is really nicely presented for the operators to make decisions. The problem is, one of these providers had a 60-second delay between real time and what the dashboards were providing. The other one was 90 seconds. So if there is 60 or 90 seconds of delay before you can make a decision to do some modifications in your streaming infrastructure, you're losing 60 to 90 Ford Mustang of ads revenue during that time. So they wanted to have, the goal was to have something that would be actionable in less than 5 seconds. And they wanted to, that's really the goal they had. We actually went beyond that and could be faster than it, but that's really what they wanted to achieve with a more tailored solution. So they decided that they would create their own tool, and they partnered with Momento to provide a new dashboard QoE infrastructure that would enable that. So again, the result is dashboards updated in, I say near real time, because we're actually like 1 or 2 seconds behind real time for the dashboards, depending on some latencies we had on the overall workflow. Being able to do some dynamic queries. They wanted to be able to dive deeper into the analytics, and they were a little bit frustrated with the off-the-shelf solutions they had from the vendors because they couldn't ask engineers to create new dashboards if anything went wrong, so that they could, again, modify dynamically the streaming infrastructure and make sure that there was 0 buffer rate in during the event, during the Super Bowl. So that's going to be the big one. That's the infrastructure we put in place. So Momento, it's the green side on this diagram. We don't want to provide the SDKs for the players. We don't want to provide the dashboards for the operators. We want to provide the infrastructure that will support millions, up to 15.5 million of concurrent viewers, and scale for this kind of event. As you can see here, we have 2 paths. So the content, so every 10 seconds, there was a beacon with some data coming from all the players sent to Momento Gateway, which is kind of a super load balancer that writes the data in Momento Cache for real-time access. Every 100 beacons, we were doing a aggregation in the Parquet format that was dumped to S3, and they could use Athena. I will give you more details later. They could use Athena if they wanted to do SQL requests on the QA analytics they got from the players. And then they had 2 types of dashboards. The real-time dashboards that was getting the content directly from the Momento cache in real time, and the more offline SQL-based requests that they could do with Athena. I will give you more details on those two parts of the workflow in a couple of slides. But I wanted to show you the results. So the results, we did some testing up to over 15.5 million of users, which we are very proud we could support that, because the two other solutions for QA metrics they were using, they could not scale up to 15.5. Backstory, when the Super Bowl was just over, they issued a press release telling, hey, we did 13.2 million concurrent viewers. That's the best, the largest Super Bowl streamed ever. And we're in the war room on Slack, and we told them, hey, look at our dashboards, because the numbers you got from that other vendor are not right. They missed a few million viewers. And the two other solutions, so they stopped at, I think it was 12.6 and 13.2 million concurrent streams. We could detect up to 15.5 million concurrent viewers. So we're really proud that our infrastructure could scale up to that, and we did some testing because we are prepared to go beyond 15.5. But their internal goals were a little bit lower than that, so that's why probably they didn't test thoroughly with the other solutions. But the whole thing is, for those live events, there is a lot of unpredictability. You don't know how, I mean, you know, everything can buzz on the internet. I think the halftime show was very controversial this year, and it generated a lot more interest than what was anticipated. But you have to take that into account, because that can happen for any live event. Every single player was sending a beacon every 10 seconds, which means at peak time, with 15.5 devices, we had to process about 2 million transactions per second. 2 million transactions per second. That's huge. And we wanted to provide that in real time, because again, they wanted to have that granularity. So again, shout out to the Fox service operators and execs, and how they could manage that, because that was really amazing, and we're really proud we could help them in that project. What was the biggest challenge? Being able to scale with this kind of scale, 2 million transactions per second. So let's get back to our map. So we have 15.5 million people living in those 4 states. We're in Portland. That's the Portland metropolitan area. So that's basically Portland. I think pretty much everybody here lives in that area. We have 1.9 million people living in those 5 counties around Portland. So that's exactly the number of people that would represent the number of requests you have every second. And for people who are not coming from Portland, who are overseas, there was a Lady Gaga concert in Rio de Janeiro recently. I hope the video will work. Yes. So there were 2 million people attending the concert. So can you imagine, when we talk about 2 million requests per second from the players, it's exactly the same as those 2 million of people watching the Lady Gaga concert, watching the concert and saying, hey, that's my heart rate, that's my weight, that's my glucose percentage. You know, all the analytics that you have on the video player, the job of a video player is to do video, but they also, every 10 seconds, they were providing information like, how far am I on the live point, what's my bit rate, how many segments have I tried to download that failed, and so on. So you can see every single second we had to get 2 million of requests. It's not something you can do with classic tools like ALB or NLB from AWS. You will max out at 80 to 100,000 transactions per second if you use those tools. If you use either I think Google, they claim they can do 300,000 transactions per second on their load balancers. So that's something we developed at Momento in our Momento gateway to scale up to millions of transactions per second. So that's the part of the workflow. We have, I cannot use the pointer, but the load balancing part and the aggregation is really one of the key differentiators for that infrastructure. The way we could support those 15.5 million concurrent views and the 2 million per second beacons sent to the infrastructure was because we could load balance the content with our own technology and store that in Momento cache. Because again, if you want to scale with millions of requests, if you use non-serverless caching systems like Redis, you would have to scale with as many instances as required to support this kind of load. So we built a serverless solution that have the elasticity and scalability to support that. So that's what we did for the live metrics part. So it was all real time. So, well, real time. Every 10 seconds we got a beacon. So at the, worst case, you had 10-second delay for the players. The challenges we were facing were, again, the workload, the number of transactions per second we had to support, the bandwidth, the concurrent connections. I was asked, what's our secret sauce? Why Momento could do that and other hyperscalers couldn't scale up to this kind of load? It's because we decided to write Momento with Rust. So we have a bunch of Rust engineers, and Rust is a technology that is very, very good at scaling to this kind of load. We use what we call Momento functions, which are basically mini lambdas to do some post-processing when we store data into Momento or get data out of Momento. We use WebAssembly, WASM, for that, which is also a technology that is very tuned for high concurrency and high scalability. So that was for the real-time metrics. But during those 4 hours, and because they could lose Ford Mustang every second, they might want to get deeper into the analytics. And that's the second part of the workflow. So we did some batch processing. And I think it was every 100 beacons, we're writing an S3 file in the Parquet format. So Parquet is a column optimized format so that they could use Amazon Athena to do SQL requests. And at the largest time to live to get those SQL requests was 20 seconds. You know, in the worst case scenario, it was 20 seconds. In reality, the vast majority of the SQL requests gave the results in 5 to, I think it was like 5 seconds. So it was way, way, way better than the 60 or 90 second response times they got from their other QA vendors, and they could do any kind of SQL requests. So it's basically in their dashboards, they had the ability to add whatever they wanted. We used, again, we tried to leverage as much as possible the AWS tools we could work with. So we used ZSTD compression format for S3 so that it was highly optimized and also cost effective, because it's always a balance between cost and performance for this kind of scale. And they could do whatever they wanted with SQL requests after the fact. So that was really effective. And I can give you an example that Fox shared with us, authorized us to share. So it's really interesting because those are the Apple devices during the Super Bowl. So you can see the big one, the purple one, is for the iPhones. You have the lowest one, the red one is for the iPads, and the orange and green one are for Apple TV, HD, and UHD, and the blue is the aggregated of all the Apple TV devices. It's really interesting because you can see there is a lot more spikiness on the purple one, which means that the Apple users, when they were watching the Super Bowl, they were switching apps. Whereas if you look at the blue one, it's for the Apple TV devices. When you have your Apple TV on the Tubi channel, you just keep that on your TV for the whole game. You just don't swap your apps on your Apple TV while you constantly change your apps on your iPhone. And you can see that a lot of people were watching. The big jump is after the halftime show. So a lot of people were watching Kendrick Lamar concert during the halftime show, and they dropped right after the halftime show, while on the Apple TV, it stayed more or less flat. A few people dropped, but the vast majority stayed flat. And you can see on the red one for the iPad, it's a little bit similar to the iPhone, except that for the iPad, you don't swipe and switch apps. You still keep the mainstream on your iPad the same way you would do it on the Apple TV. So I think that's interesting, and that's the kind of analysis you can do with those Athena SQL requests after the fact that will give you a lot of insights on the usage patterns for the subscribers of a TV service. All right, so I talked about the QoE part. There is a lot more for the streaming infrastructure, leveraging AWS, AWS Elemental, and we're launching a new conference at the end of July in Seattle, so it's not very far from Portland. So maybe if you want to spend 2 days with a lot of good speakers, you can go to Seattle. There will be Mayo Srinivasan, one of our keynote speakers, who will give you a lot more details on the streaming infrastructure for the Super Bowl, but we'll also have other speakers from Meta. Mike Martinez and Abhinav will talk about GenAI for video applications. We'll have people from Disney, AWS Elemental, Twitch coming. So if you want to register, it's bavconf.com. The website will be launched tomorrow officially, but you can still access it today. And we try to make it as cost-effective as possible. It's not very far from Portland. There is no DMUX in the US this year. DMUX will be in London. I don't know if the date has been decided yet. I think it's going to be October, but I don't think the date is there. So if you cannot go to London and want to go to Seattle, please register to that. It will be launched very shortly, and you will hear a lot more about the actual streaming infrastructure for Fox at the Super Bowl during that conference. I still have 8 minutes for questions. So thanks again, and please ask me any question you want. Oh, and you will get those awesome hoodies right after my presentation.
Any questions? So this is at T-Mobile Park.
It's a T-Mobile Park, yeah.
How'd you guys? Never mind. We'll talk later. Any question? Yeah, just the diamond.
Well, it's inside T-Mobile Park. It's the whole park, but we'll be there. Yeah.
It's a conference room on the side, right?
No. It's gonna be much better than what you can expect. That's what they sold me. So we'll see.
That's what I'm buying.
So you send beacons every 10 seconds. How big is the packet of data in that beacon?
I think it was. I don't know the exact number, but it was between 700 and 1 kilobyte per beacon.
Anyway.
What were you basing your decision to ensure you had that deep throughput? So you beat out the competition tools that they also had running in parallel to your product, right? for the Super Bowl, you anticipated and you said you pre-tested for more than 15. How did you know to do that, given prior metrics, right? The numbers that you showed for 2 years before were significantly lower.
It was 7 million or 8.5 million. I mean, those were the numbers. So the question is, how could we tell that we would beat the predictions and go up to 15.5 million? We're a small company, but we're coming from this industry. I mean, we've most of the company was from AWS or AWS Elemental. We've been involved in other of those events before, and we knew that there was a chance that it could go higher than that. I won't give you the numbers, but we were very conservative, and we could go way beyond that, way beyond 15.5 million. I'm actually surprised that the other providers didn't test it to that level, because we thought there was a chance that it could be higher than predicted, especially because Tubi is free. We saw all the work, again, the operational excellence of Fox and the effort they put in building that platform was absolutely amazing. I've very seldom seen something as well designed as what they did. So they knew, they gave numbers that they were predicting, but they knew that there was also a chance they could go higher than that. And I'm really looking forward to what NBC will be doing next year, because they will have the Super Bowl next year. I don't want to do any prediction right now, but I think we will be very, very surprised with the numbers for the Super Bowl in 2026.
It'll be higher, and they'll be prepared for it because they do Olympics, right?
Yep.
Like they know what
they
they're
just
doing
did the Olympics, and they will have the Winter Olympics as well. It's the same team who's working on the Winter Olympics and the Super Bowl. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it.
Todd's amazing. Great.
Hey, Lionel, another question. How do you test in advance for those 12, 15, 20, 30 millions that you tested?
So we've built our own infrastructure for doing that kind of testing. So we do caching at very large scales. We do a lot of media entertainment, but we also do fintech. We have some banks that are working with us with also several dozens of millions of requests at the same time. So we had to build our own test harness for all those scenarios, and that's not something we're selling. If a customer wants to buy it, we will sell it, but usually those customers, they just want to have one data point for one specific event, which is the highest number of people who are doing crypto or stocks checking at 8 a.m. in the morning, or the number of people who are watching the Kendrick Lamar halftime show. But they don't want to invest in an infrastructure for that. We built our own infrastructure on top of AWS to be able to test that. It's not perfect, because there is no way you can test a national or global event. We try to have a discrete number and as big as possible, leveraging as many AZs as possible on AWS, but we're limited with what we can do. So we would not be able to test viewers from Europe or Asia, for example.
Just a sidecar questions. In CMCD v2 now you can beacon to third-party endpoints, meaning you can if you want, you can send it to your CDN, but you can also send it to Momento, for example.
You can.
Do you already have like some feedback and experience feedbacks on CMCD v2 like this?
Well, not in production yet, but it's just an endpoint, because we have the ability to use the Momento gateway to scale. So basically, what you see at the aggregator side or Momento gateway is the endpoint you would put as a CMCD v2 endpoint, and we would scale with billions of requests for CMCD.
Billions?
Millions with
millions.
an M.
Okay.
No, billions. We haven't done billions yet.
Just double checking.
I don't think.
Double checking.
No, million with an M.
8.5 million from Paramount the year before.
Yep.
No bias there. HDR though, any difference with what Fox did in the numbers? Does that matter?
I don't know on the encoding side. I think it was actually all the production was 1080p upscaled to 4K. It was not 4K from the cameras. I don't know if it was HDR or SDR only. I don't think it would change anything for us. It would be maybe more data to send in the beacons, but we were not involved in the production or encoding side at all.
Okay, and final question is, do you think that their offering with Tubi and their paid service increased the volume, or is just the organic growth that we see across our scale after year, we pretty much double?
So we'll see next year, but I think the organic growth will be a natural growth for this kind of event, yes.
All right, let's put our hands together for Lionel. This is a great talk.
Thank you.